Hello guys! September is the month when Ukrainian schools and universities begin their work. So targeting two Iskander missiles on the higher educational establishment in Poltava, Russia knew what they are doing. And they killed 51 people. All of them are civilian. This is the way Russia tries to compensate for inability to get more territories with its soldiers, with its troops. So they destroy Ukrainian schools, Ukrainian hospitals, Ukrainian lives with missiles. Actually, all of this could have been prevented long ago if we were allowed to strike back and neutralize evil Russian military infrastructure that they actually use to cause such tragedies in Ukraine. The majority of Russian airfields that they use to target these missiles on Ukrainian cities are within the reach of a long-range missile, approximately less than 300 kilometers away from Ukrainian borders. But somehow we are not allowed to defend ourselves. This is insane because actually the weapons provided by our partners are already used on the territory of Russia in Kursk, and I don't know who is behind this vision that we are not allowed to strike back. There are rumors that sometime soon this ban may be lifted, but it is already too late because so many tragedies in Poltava, in Kharkiv, in Kyiv, and actually every corner of Ukraine could have been prevented if we were allowed to neutralize Russian military potential. And this would actually make the world a safer place. Let me tell you more why it is so important from an ordinary Ukrainian perspective. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, and I'm very proud of my strong and resilient people. Subscribe to demonstrate your solidarity and help us spread important information like this very important message. Let Ukraine strike back. It was not our choice to start the war. We were attacked with no reason just because Putin is a crazy dictator who wants to reconstruct the Soviet Union, and actually he constantly explains to his population that he is already at war with the West. So those leaders who say we cannot let Ukraine strike back because this will be a direct conflict, Putin is already speaking about the direct conflict between him and NATO, even though in reality it is totally impossible because he is terrified with the potential that real countries in the West have. In comparison to them, Russia is a loser. And he knows that if he nukes any country, including Ukraine, this will be a death sentence for him and crew around him. Putin is a very careful maniac. He's constantly hiding in his bunkers, so he will not do that. It is insane not to let Ukraine prevent such attacks. Today, the number of victims is constantly growing, and it is extremely difficult for me as a Ukrainian to refresh the news and to see how at the beginning, after the attack, 41, then 49, now 51. And unfortunately, I already know that the number will grow because there are 200 severely wounded. And this is a higher educational establishments similar to the ones you have in your cities. Just imagine young people go to their classes and they are killed because Russia wants to destroy Ukraine as a country. They realize already, they know it well, they cannot take our territory with people. So their task is to kill people or to make others flee in panic. And it is all at the background and with the understanding that we can actually stop it really quickly. I know many good people say that we are with Ukraine as long as it stands, but in reality it is much better to develop an idea how we prevent Russian war crimes, how we help Ukraine that is eager to do the job neutralize Russian military potential, and this world will be a much safer place with no Russian military airfields or with no ballistic missiles in the hands of the bloody dictator who's now traveling Mongolia unpunished. This is insane. If you want to see Putin in prison, subscribe and share the videos that you like on my channel and other YouTubers who speak in the support of Ukraine and democratic values all over the world, because you cannot imagine how interconnected this world is. And I hate the explanation of Mongolia leaders that they are dependent on Russian energy. That's why they did not arrest Putin, even though they are signatories of the Rome Statute. Guys, Putin is not the producer of energy. Is it his energy that you need in your houses? No. Energy belongs to the Federation, Russian Federation, lots of countries inside this federation. And if Putin is arrested, believe me, the next day they will have a substitute who may sell you energy even cheaper. Start thinking, really, please help me spread this message, because that's insane. This is total BS. We cannot arrest a killer because we need his money. And the same about these long-range missiles. I will give you an illustration. You know, I'm a bit of a teacher. Imagine that your friend gives you a flashlight, like the one that you may use when you don't see in the darkness, but your friend also tells you you cannot turn it on at night, only use it during the day. We have these missiles. We've proved that all we do is defend ourselves, never crossing red lines, even after years of Russian violence here. And we can actually do a good job for the rest of the world, for many countries that are under threat of this dying crazy dictator, by neutralizing their air bases. 300 kilometers within the reach, we have 30 Russian air bases. And they use them to destroy Ukrainian hospitals. In Poltava, hospital was also targeted. And you know, one of the sentences in our news that made me feel very emotional, and it's always very emotional when you're outside the country, you have this feeling like I could have done something. I know that not, but there is a feeling inside of me, and I'm really looking forward to be back. But what they said, that literally every operation room, like the room where surgical operations are performed in Poltava, is now busy with the wounded. So all the city is now saving lives that could have continued living, studying, if we were allowed to strike back, simply to strike back. Haven't we proved that we are trustworthy? What they do right now. And that's very vivid. Putin understands that with his soldiers, with his troops on the land, he cannot take Ukrainian territories. I know trolls like describing villages that are taken or villages that are back, but in reality, Putin spent 2.5 years, actually more, trying to get some territories that he can represent as an achievement, and he fails. He cannot reach the borders of the regions he describes as Russian and so on. This is a total failure, taking into account that they actually have millions in the army that they wanted to describe as the second strongest. So the only option is to terrorize the people of Ukraine, constantly shelling them. Every day Kyiv is under attack. Poltava, a city that seemed safe today, higher educational establishment and hospital. Kharkiv, my very dear city. I have friends there. That's the place where I defended my PhD in linguistics, under constant shelling because unfortunately it is too close to the border with Russia. And they constantly shell it. So they use artillery and other evil stuff to target frontline regions. They use ballistic missiles to reach everywhere in Ukraine. And it's obvious that this could have been prevented with just a very simple decision. Let Ukraine strike back, and you see how good we are. You see how accurate we are, and you know that in a month or two, none of Russian military air bases would have existed. What's the reason? What's the reason to give you an instrument and not let you use it? because this will be a direct conflict between NATO and Russia. No, it's just like when I'm wearing sneakers and I'm in France, it does not mean that Nike company is with me in France. Or if I'm running in Nike and I'm winning a competition, it's my victory, not Nike's. Am I right? Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments below. Because another argument, very important, foreign ammunition, foreign tanks, foreign weapons are already used in Kursk, which is a part of the Russian Federation. And why isn't that treated as a direct escalation? Moreover, one of the reasons that I take seriously, because I often ask myself, how come after all of these books, all of these culture parts and so on, with Bond movies, you know, special agents, Putin is still with us, not in hell. And the only answer that seems realistic is just because all of these intelligence services know he will not use nuclear weapons. Because he's dead the next second and he wants to leave. He desperately wants to leave. But he belongs to hell. Not to Mongolia, not even to The Hague. Let Ukraine strike back. That's the best way to save millions, not only in Ukraine. Russia is a monster right now. It is a crazy, violent regime and the population that cheers for that. And the only way to make this planet a safer place, to protect our ecology, to protect future generations, and to prevent other authoritarian regimes from repeating these attitudes is to defeat Russia. And then you will have cheap prices for energy, believe me, with a new leader in Russia or new countries that will appear there. I'm sorry that I'm emotional, but you know, I'm also a teacher and I know what the beginning of the school year is in Ukraine. And I have friends who send their children to the first form. And yesterday Kyiv was targeted early in the morning, and these beautiful little children in Ukrainian vyshyvankas were hiding in the underground just before their first ever in life class. And you know, we are just the same people as you are. We don't want to hide underground. We don't want to build underground hospitals and schools. We are proud of that now. We speak about that now, but that's not what we want. There is a rumor that maybe Ukraine will be allowed to use long-range missiles and they will be added to F-16s that we have. But once again, it will take months. And these months are not just days, these are human lives. Thank you so much for your support. I'm sorry that I'm emotional, but your friends and family, you know that. And I very much value your support and understanding. Please share those videos that you consider important, and I consider this one important. Join me on Instagram, X, Threads, and Discord, and I'm looking forward for our live this Saturday when I'm back home in Ukraine. Check our merch shop. There are lots of good products that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. And thank you for all the things that you do in your countries to persuade people that we have to be able to defend ourselves to the fullest and not fight back with our hands tied behind the back. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. Thank you for being friends of Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!